After we talked with Lou, we made our way up to Chambersburg, home of mainline broadcasting and Mix 95.1. We were looking for Rick Alexander, co-host of the area's #1 morning radio show, Rick and Lisa in the Morning. We gave Rick the use of one of his favorite vehicles, the Nissan Altima. He got to drive it for a week. After that week was up, we had to pry the keys out of his hands. We sat down with Rick, and here's what he had to say. Okay, we are honored and delighted to have my next guest. He is the co-host of the most popular morning radio show in the area, none other than Rick Alexander from the Rick and Lisa Morning Show. Rick, thank you so much for being here. We are honored to have you on the show.
Glad I could be here, Dan.
How have you been?
Very good. And yourself?
Been great. Now, Rick, I know that you've been doing the Rick and Lisa Morning Show a long time. How long have you been doing Rick and Lisa?
Well, actually, it's about 22 years. I've been in at the same station at Mix 95.1 WIKZ for 25 years.
Rick, you know, your business, a lot of people look at it and say it's you know, there's not even work, you're just out there talking. But I know there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. What would you say is the toughest part of what you do?
Getting up at 4:30 every morning, by far. I mean, Dave, what I do, it's not a job. It's fun. Like I said, I'm blessed to be able to get up and be able, it's like, they pay me to do this? Not as much as I'd like, but they pay me to do it, you know? And, but getting up at 4:30, and it took me, I've been doing the morning show with Lisa now 22, 23 years, and it took me about the first 10 years to get used to that. And, you know, I'm still not naturally a morning guy, but that's the toughest part.
4:30 in the morning.
That's great.
That's impressive. Okay, now Rick, Lisa is more to you than just the morning co-host with you. She is also your wife.
That is correct.
Now, how did all that transpire?
Well, it's an interesting story, Dave. I was actually working afternoons at Mix 95.1. At that time, we were called Z95. And we had a couple people leave the station. And the program director at the time wanted to move me into mornings. And I said, I'm not really a morning guy. As I told you, I'm not getting up at 4:30 in the morning. And I said, I'll tell you what. I'll do it. If you don't like what I'm doing or I don't like doing it, we'll just forget about it. So anyway, I did move to mornings and never looked back. I did mornings by myself for about a year. In the meantime, to replace my position in the afternoon, Lisa was hired from a station in Hanover, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And the funny thing about it is, you know, it shows you how times have changed. At that point, having a female on the air, particularly in the afternoon, was just not common. Females on the air in general weren't that common at the time, so it was kind of like, I don't know if we should hire a female for this particular job. But she was the best person for the job, and rightfully that she was hired. And after a couple of months, it was obvious that I was flailing by myself in morning drive because, you know, Lisa's the brains behind the show. I just show up. My tough part is getting up at 4:30 every morning. That's my contribution. If I can get up, get showered, and shaved, we've done a good thing. But so she had an interest in doing mornings, and the program director at the time, we convinced him, and stupid enough, we were already dating before that. And
whoa, back up.
Yeah.
Back up. How did we go from we hired this new person that was the right person for the job to we were already dating?
If I knew how that happened, I'd let you know. But actually, it was funny because being a female, the only female on an all boys club, if you will, I kind of said to the guys, just back off. Don't try to ask her out or anything like that. You know, she's one of us. Don't do that. Well, then I kind of did the thing I told everybody not to. It just kind of happened. We were the same age, shared a lot of the same interests, and before you know it.
So you put the old block on everybody else, and
more or less,
right in.
Okay. Yeah. When it's good to be king.
Way to go! All right.
So we eventually started dating, and the wisdom of the boss let us go on the air together, and. A couple of years later, we married, but we never. The funny part about it is, as much as we talk about our lives on the air today, back then it was a different kind of industry. It was more comedy and more. It wasn't as real. It wasn't about our lives. And so, and the other thing is, we didn't want to be thought of as just being a married couple. We wanted to be accepted for what we did on the air. So we never really talked about it. Matter of fact, we'd go on vacation, and one person would talk about it, the other person couldn't. Well, finally, in 1992, she became pregnant with our son, Jonathan. We thought, we better talk about this.
Cat's kind of out of the bag at that point.
So on Valentine's, I'm not sure. Valentine's Day, 1992, we did a promotion where we had a number of listeners renew their wedding vows with the local judge. And at that time, then we admitted that we were married on the air. And then in June, Jonathan was born, and we named him on the air. Somewhere I still have a tape of that. And over the years, we found that more and more people just like real people on the air. If they can relate to you. We just, we live average lives. We're average people, and people can relate to the things we get into.
That would be, if I had one piece of advice for somebody who was trying to be in radio or TV, it was like, people will tune in more just to see you being real than you're trying to be somebody that you're not. So I think that's good advice.
Yeah, being real is the best thing you can do. And if you can fake that, you got it made.
Well, Rick, you drove the Altima.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I knew before I gave you an Altima that you had a special place in your heart for that vehicle. But first impressions, what do you think?
Well, I mean, it's a unique vehicle. There was a time when all vehicles were unique, but
the '57 Chevy. Yes.
Oh yeah, but you could look down the road and not even have your glasses on and say, oh, I know what that is. Well, you can still do that with the Altima, which I found out this week is spelled with an A, not a U.
That is correct.
So if you're going to Google this vehicle, you want to know how it's spelled. But yeah, beautiful vehicle. It's very stylish. And man, for what it had a 4-cylinder, that sucker had some really get up and go.
175 horsepower in that vehicle, still gets over 30 miles to the gallon with that.
How do you do that? What's the secret?
I don't know how Nissan does that, but I think that's one of the things that makes Nissan one of the best manufacturers out there is that you get so much performance and you get the gas mileage too.
Years ago, back in the 70s, when we had our first gas crisis, you had to make your choice of having a car that could actually move or one that was good on gas. Now you don't have to make that choice anymore.
Right. This car can look good sitting in your driveway, and you can afford to drive it, which is a nice
yeah, that's a nice compromise.
So the Altima, you got a chance to drive it for a week, and again, I think one of the things that you honed in on was the performance and the gas mileage combination. Who's that the right vehicle for?
Well, if you want a vehicle that people look at and say, hey, that guy's doing all right, and not have to, spend
not have to be doing all right.
I mean, it's a classic vehicle. I mean, you have to be doing all right to, but it's a great. It looks good. You can, it's the kind of vehicle that people like. Look at the other, when you turn their heads a little bit when you drive by. And you don't have to stop at the gas station every 5 miles to fill it up. And it'll get you where you want to go and get you there quickly.
Now you got it tooled around for about a week. What were the features that you kind of found interesting on it?
Well, the smart key was kind of cool because, the smart key, you don't actually put it in the ignition. It's got the push button to start, which is like the Batmobile. So I'm driving the Batmobile. Flames didn't come out of the back, and I'm sure you're glad about that. But, the smart key, you put it in your pocket. Guys like me can't leave the key lay.
Right.
Isn't that, I mean, that in itself pays for itself with the auto plug coming.
Open the door, you can lock the door, walk away from it, and then when you walk back up to it, you can open the door just because the key's in his guy's pocket, so he can get access.
But the Bose sound system, the leather interior, all that good stuff. I mean, it's
now you're a radio guy. You said you liked music. Did you dig the sound system?
Oh yeah, crank it up nice and loud. Yeah,
that Bose stereo system is something to behold.
It's good. It's good. Makes Mix 95 sound really good on it.
Is that the only station that Altima would pick up?
Yeah, that's the way we set all the buttons.
Okay. Well, Rick, thank you once again for being on the show. We are honored to have you, and as always, I'll be listening. I hope you folks will too.